Hello and welcome back. In this video, we'll talk about records and fields in ServiceNow. Before we get into records and fields, I'd first like to talk about an important concept in ServiceNow, and that's the globally unique identifier. The ServiceNow wiki states each record in ServiceNow is identified by a unique 32-character globally unique ID called a sysID. In software development, we often need a way to reference an exact record or data structure. And in order to reference an exact record, we must need some type of unique identifier. This is commonly referred to as a globally unique identifier. However, in the ServiceNow world, we refer to this by the sysID. An example of a sysID is as follows. It looks a little bizarre at first because it's a 32-character hexadecimal string. So in this example, we have EF4225, A40, etc. SysIDs are used all throughout the system and are very common in scripting within ServiceNow. If you are referencing a specific incident in a script and you need a way to reference that again in maybe another script or just another function, you can do so by using the sysID to point to that exact incident. SysIDs are commonly paired with a table name to locate a specific record. So for example, if you have the sysID of a record, in addition to the table name in which that record is stored, you can use these two values to quickly find that specific record. So for example, if you wanted to reference a specific incident and you had that sysID, you could use the sysID plus the table name, in this case incident, to quickly query and locate that incident. Now, in theory, because sysIDs are unique, you could find that record just by using the sysID. But it turns out it's much more efficient and quicker to find that record by adding the name of the table. Alright, now let's discuss databases, tables, and fields. So a database contains many tables, and a table contains many fields. So the incident table might have the fields number for the incident number, caller for the caller associated with that incident, and short description for the short description for that incident. So the incident table contains many fields, the fields I just listed. Records are stored in tables. So in the screenshot below, we have a list of records that are stored within the incident table. The columns in this screenshot represent the fields on the incident table. So by looking at this list, we can see that the incident table has the fields created, number, short description, category, and opened by. So if we use the analogy of a spreadsheet, we could say that the rows from a spreadsheet translate to the records in a table, and the columns of a spreadsheet translate to the fields on the table. So an individual cell refers to a specific record's field value. So for example, the second record in this list's number is INC 0020154. So again, records are stored in database tables. Records represent a single entity defined by a table's fields. So what makes a specific record unique are the field values associated with that specific record. Each record has a unique key, the sysID. So if you wanted to reference this INC 0020154 incident record, you could do so in a script by referencing the sysID, which is this EF4225A, etc. hexadecimal string. Now let's talk about field types in ServiceNow. So ServiceNow has many different field types. There's a string field type, a date field type, a time field type, there's choice field types, true and false field types, list field types, HTML field types, even scripting field types, which we can leverage in custom applications, and reference field types. There are other field types within the platform, but this is a list of the more commonly used field types. So what are reference fields? Well, the ServiceNow docs state reference fields store a reference to a specific row in another table, similar to foreign keys in SQL. So if you're ever looking at a form of a specific record, and you see the magnifying glass shown on the right by the caller field and the location field, these represent reference fields in ServiceNow. So in this screenshot, you can see that we're on the incidents form view. However, there's a field on the incident table called caller that's actually referencing the sysuser table. So when I start typing a name here, it's pulling up a list of records stored in another table in the sysuser table. Same for location. It turns out these reference fields are a fundamental building block to applications within ServiceNow. These reference fields give us the flexibility to create relationships between records. So, for example, if the location field was just a free-form text field, a string field, then we wouldn't have consistent data because maybe every help desk technician has a different way of entering a location. Maybe some people use all caps or all lowercase. Some people wouldn't put a comma after the city. Maybe some people wouldn't even add the state at the end, etc. However, if we create a reference to the location table, and as long as the location table is already populated, then within the incidents record, we're actually storing a reference to that specific location. So then we have the integrity of that data in every field. Popular reference tables are the user table, the location table, and CI tables. However, any table may be referenced by another table. References are everywhere in the platform. And it turns out that the sysid is stored in the referenced field. So again, if we're using the example of an incident record, that incident record has a field called caller ID, which references the sysuser table. Well, if I have Mark Miller as the caller ID, it's Mark Miller's sysid that's actually being stored in that referenced field. Even though it uses the display value of Mark Miller, it's the actual sysid that's being stored there. Reference fields must match an exact record. So if you're ever typing in a reference field and you get a red background shown in the screenshot here, that means that there is no exact match for the text in that field. So this would imply that there's no user in the sysuser table that has a name of Jane. Finally, if we want to filter the referenced records, we can do so by using reference qualifiers. So maybe in the caller field, we only wanted to pull active users from the sysuser table. If a user was marked inactive, maybe they retired or something like that, then we don't want to give the user the ability to reference those records. Alright, now let's quickly take a look at reference fields in ServiceNow. So if I go to the incident table, we'll go to Open Incidents, and we navigate into a specific incident. We can see that there are magnifying glasses next to the caller field, the location field, the configuration item field, as well as the opened by, assignment group, and assigned to fields. So if I right click on caller and click on show caller ID, I can see information about this specific reference field. I can see that the field name is caller ID and that it's of type reference, and it references the sysuser table. If I show the location field, we can see that this is of type reference and it references the CMN_location table. If I click the information icon next to location, I'll be taken into this related record. So here I'm on the CMN location table, viewing the Columbus, Ohio location record. I'll go back to the incident, and now I'll go to Configure Table. And I'll search for the column caller. So if I go into the dictionary entry for the caller field on the incident table, we can see that I have a reference field where we specify the user table, and that we can apply reference qualifier conditions. So if we wanted to only show active users, we could do active is true and add any other filters on the sysuser table. If we go to the top, we can see that this is of type reference.